Hi, all you web crawlers out there. Welcome to this session of Webinate Wisdom. I'm excited to have Donna Riccardo today. Donna is the founder and CEO of Red Stiletto, where she coaches entrepreneurs in public speaking. She has 30 years of public speaking and training experience, and for 16 years, she has trained students for personal development and has coached them on how to fulfill what matters to them most. She has been with Toastmasters for 11 years and has achieved the highest award of Distinguished Toastmaster. She is also a trained NLP practitioner and a member of the National Speakers Association. I have met with Donna and she is super exciting to talk to. So stay tuned and we'll have a lot of fun. Hi, Donna. How are you doing?
Hey, Tara. How are you? I'm good.
I'm good. So my introduction for you was very bulleted. So we can't wait to hear all about what you do because you were amazing when I've sat down and talked with you and you've talked about all the things you've done. So tell us about yourself, what you do, why you do it, how you even got into doing it.
Well, let's see. I have to try to give you the condensed version of all that.
No, take your time. We want the deets. We don't want the condensed version.
Okay. Let's see. So up until I was like 11 years old, I was very lively and outgoing and didn't have any trouble getting out there and doing anything. And then my dad got in a near fatal, he survived and just turned 83 this winter, but he got in a near fatal car accident and I changed. Like I withdrew from the world. And when I tried to come back, I guess is how I think of it, as I was terrified of people. And I tried different things and they didn't go well. I tried taking acting classes and I tried doing, just different, anything I could think of to come back, like come back out into the world. Right. And I had some different opportunities come up. For some reason, I like to say it's divine intervention, is that I was drawn to be a hairdresser. And so, because that, being scared of people just kind of doesn't make sense, right? If you want to be a hairdresser. So that's why I say it was divine intervention, because that made no sense. But I did. I became a hairdresser. And then I got drawn to teach. And I remember walking down the street one day thinking I had just completed a rigorous couple of years long apprenticeship as a hairdresser apprentice in New York. And I was now a stylist and like, well, now what? And I would walk around asking myself, now what? And one day I heard this message in my head, I guess, I don't know, heard it somewhere. It said, teach. And I thought, right away, like, well, I'm asking back to myself, right? Teach what? Teach who? What do I teach? What does that look like? I don't know, but I didn't get any more answers. So I thought it was just so clear and strong. I thought I'll teach what I have. So I started out teaching other hairdressers. And then I discovered also after a couple of just not good things happened, having to be rescued on stage with no words coming out of my mouth. And, that happened a couple times. And it dawns on me, wait, I can learn this, because people in the beauty business generally, especially at that time, they're men, they have big personalities, they've kind of the gift of gab, they, throw hair all around. I was a hair cutter, and they flirt with the audience. And like, I'm not any of that. It just never occurred to me. If I'd gone to college, I might have encountered public speaking, just simply never occurred to me. But it dawns on me at one point, finally, I can learn this. So I did. And I set out to, some of the things that you said, I became an NLP practitioner, and because that's about dealing with your mind and how you talk to yourself and how you communicate with others. I joined Toastmasters. I took more acting classes. I did a lot of personal development, personal growth work. Some of that included learning how to teach transformational teachers work. And where I learned I had more work to do on teaching and learning to speak, but I just kept at it. And then, fast forward till a few years ago, I didn't want to do hair anymore. And I thought, well, what do I have? Well, what I have is public speaking, and all the things that I did to learn to do that is now what I have to offer others.
Oh, that's great. So what does NLP stand for?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Neuro-linguistic programming. Okay.
So like your mind and your speaking and how you communicate to yourself and how that gives you the life you have. And then also how you communicate with others comes out of that, because it all starts over here.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you not been doing hair and just coaching and teaching public speaking?
Let's see. Absolutely not doing hair for a couple of years, but phased way out for a little while before that. Like
For
skills.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
And so when did you start Red Stiletto?
So I started Red Stiletto just 2 years ago, like a full
Really?
2 years ago. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it says you coach entrepreneurs. You only coach like businesses and entrepreneurs, or anybody who has those fears of public speaking?
Yes, I can work with anybody that wants to deal with their public speaking, take it to the next level. Absolutely. I've had some corporate clients, some like individuals that work for corporations. I have the entrepreneurs. So it's and the skills themselves are the same, the public speaking presentation skills, but how you do it, how you approach it, and who you're speaking to is what changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't say I've never had a fear of public speaking. I've just me and my brother, and he was also my business partner. I was always the gregarious one, though, that was kind of more outgoing, and so I've done public speaking, but I always get, I'm a nervous wreck before I get up there. Once I get up there and I'm about a minute in, then I kind of relax into it. But yeah, it's what do you suggest to people? Like, so I just did a presentation last week. Man, the week's been flying by. And it was a PowerPoint presentation in front of a class. I was teaching a little class, and I had got me a clicker, and I got there early. Everything was on the screen fine, clicking through fine. And I had made, on PowerPoint, I'd made the notes so that I could keep bullet points. I'm looking at the slide and keeping where I wanted to go with everything so I didn't get ahead of myself. And nothing on my computer screen was following what they were seeing. So all of my notes, now I'm tend to be an over-prepared person. So I just went with it. I kind of winged it. But other people, and I had people say, oh, that would have thrown me right there. I would have just been like dead. And I said, well, I guess, I don't know. Some people can't do that. So what do you suggest? How do you suggest somebody to be relaxed enough to just go with it?
Yeah, well, I think you've already pointed to it. It's the preparation. It's all the preparation, and if it means being what, a person might consider being over-prepared, over-prepare. Practice it, read it through a lot, and then get in front of the mirror and read it to yourself out loud. And after you go through it a number of times, like, quietly, everything from there has to be coming out of your mouth, saying it out loud. Mirror work, trying to, look at it and then look in the mirror, get in front of real people, practice in front of as many people as you can. Pets, like they fall asleep and yawn in your face and stuff, not so much. But the main thing is to practice it, get in front of your friends. I promise you'll still have friends afterwards.
Right.
Practice.
Yeah. And always hook it up to a TV and practice the electronics part.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was good to go. Everything hooked up right, but had I done it at home, which that was the one thing I hadn't done. I had used the clicker. I knew it was clicking through and working with the computer right. And when I got there and it got up on the TV just right, I thought I was good.
Right.
And so had I taken either the time to practice that part at home as I was practicing my presentation, my verbal presentation, I wouldn't have been left in that lurch. So, I mean, every time you speak, I think there's always a takeaway of a learning experience in everything that you do. I mean, and I'm sure that you can speak to that. But, I always learn those things. So next time, where I thought I had all them ducks in a row, my brother says, well, those ducks like to sneak off, I'm like, well, so, and, but being prepared is, for me, important. But I know that some people are, like you said, people had to get you off the stage because you were so scared you couldn't speak. And so is that just the answer? Just be over prepared? Or
yeah, like really practicing it in front of people and getting their feedback is just huge. Another thing, like, let's say showing up at the venue, get there ahead of time, find out who your tech support person is, right? And make sure with them that it's all going to be good to go long before, get there. It depends on the event and the venue and who's helping you, but, at least 30 minutes before you use your thing or before the event starts, right? And then I like to also, I print it out in a large font. I write it out in complete sentences. So I write out complete sentences rather than like bullets or phrases, but I still use bullets. So it's kind of cleanly delineated, double space it. I use a 14-point font so I can just glance. And that's how I use it to prepare. And then I take it with me. And I'm not speaking of taking things with you. Always print out your introduction. Even though you've sent it to the people that are going to introduce you, always print out and take it with you. But I print out my talk and I have it there if I need it.
Yeah. And I would have been saved had I printed it out. And I do the same thing. I do full sentences, but I bullet them. So I don't put paragraphs of information.
Right.
But I also am one that it drives me crazy when I'm in a presentation and there's a screen and people just read exactly what's on. It's like, okay, I'm here. I'm intelligent enough to be here. I can read. I mean, I can read. So I want to be sure that this is just me and you can tell me, from a coaching standpoint, how accurate this is or not accurate. I just feel like I want to have more to offer than just what's on.
Right.
So I've got the points there that they can read that are very clear, but then I want to be able to expound on what's up there as opposed to just having a slide that's full of everything that I want to say.
Yes. Well, that's why you need to really, really be prepared because one, you never want to read off your slides, right? I don't even like having to glance at it. If I feel like, where am I? Let me just I don't even like having to glance at it, right? But never, ever read off the slides. So here's three ideas for making slides. One is just 3 different things that I've heard. And I think any one of these can work for people.
Right.
So one would be to have no more than 3 bullet points and very short phrases. Another, I've heard say 6 by 6, 6 bullet points, no more than 6 words each. To me, that's already getting to be a little busy. I go with the 3. And another one is don't have any words, have pictures.
And I had some of that, and I followed that. I had some bullet points that were probably more than 6, but I was talking about some very specific things that required them that way. But I played around with how it was laid out. I mean, I tried to be as visual with it as I could. So because, and I'm going from just what are my pet peeves when I'm in an audience listening, and so, and I could be just dead wrong. If you're like, okay, she's going so fast, I can't read what's on the slide. I don't think I had that much information on the slide itself, but, I just know that I'm used to just kind of going with the flow. My brother, on the other hand, was always the more introverted one. And he still is of the 2 of us, the more introverted one, but he has started doing a lot more public speaking because he also, in addition to being my partner in Webinit, has a coaching side of his own that's all about overcoming obstacles, mentally and things that keep you from moving forward. And he kind of built his whole teaching syllabus, if you will, on what he's done to overcome. So he's teaching the walk that he's walked. Now he's talking it. So,
exactly.
And I've seen him and know he's nervous but he seems to fall into that. Once you get up there, you get past that nervousness and the flow starts to come. Not everybody can do that though.
This is true. That's why the more prepared a person is, the better. And the more they practice it out loud, the better.
So do you recommend people go to places like Toastmasters? I know we have a place here that I've been to called the Million Cups where you can present. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, another preparation thing I like to do too is I'll record it. I'll record the whole talk and I'll do it as close to the way I want to deliver it as possible, like with inflection and pauses, not just like blah, 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 reading it, but actually the way I'd want to give it to my audience and listen to it, like, I don't know, walk around in the yard or drive it or just listen to it over and over. So the more it gets in, the better.
So when you're teaching a class here, because I didn't quite know how to do this, because I was teaching a class, so I anticipated people asking questions, and I wasn't sure if I should have given the direction at the beginning. Well, hold your questions till the end, and then I go through my presentation, or let them stop me and ask questions, which is what they did. And it worked fine, but there were times when I wished that, then I thought, well, maybe I should have done that different, because I don't know, is one a time saver over another?
Yeah, there's a couple different reasons you would do one or the other, and that's one of them. So it also depends on the nature of the talk or presentation or class, or the nature of the teaching. So let's say if you're an entrepreneur and you're speaking to, let's say, a group of people that could be they're your target market, they could be possible ideal clients, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're going to make them an offer at the end of it. Do not let them ask questions throughout, because you don't want anybody, you're going to spend all this time setting yourself up to be the expert, and then you're going to make them an offer, whether it's a connect offer to have a strategy session or some kind of a call like that, or it's a product you're selling or a service. But if you're going to make an offer, sell them something at the end, don't let them ask questions, because you don't know what people are going to say. Now, sometimes, so kind of in there, if for whatever reason you have to do it before the offer. So don't end on questions. Another way you can do it is ask people to put questions, depending on how you're delivering, have them write them down, take them up front. Like, what do you want to have answered today? You could take them up front. If you're on a virtual platform, you can have them put questions in the chat, or if you have like on Zoom, they have a Q&A place that nobody but the host. So you can have them put them in there. And another way you can do it is there are likely to be typical questions people ask you. And this is a really good way to do it no matter with what, is you ask and answer the questions yourself. And you would still, if you're making an offer, you'd still do that before the offer, or you answer them in the context of the talk itself. But what that would look like if you're asking and answering, maybe you get to the end, you haven't made your offer yet, or maybe you're not going to, but maybe you don't want to have people asking the questions. You might say, here are some typical questions that I get, or here's what people often ask me. And you say the question and you say the answer. So there's a number of ways you can do that. It just depends on the nature, of the interaction. If you want it to be, say the time isn't as much constrained and you want it to be a little more free flowing, it's nice sometimes to have that.
Right.
Another way is ask them to write it down, and then they can ask it at the end. So there's a lot of ways to handle it.
Yeah, because I felt like my time got out of the way. And then what I was finding was, so I was teaching, the little class I was teaching was called Social Media 101. So it was real basic. It wasn't getting down into the weeds. It was just kind of high level ideas and what to look for as a business owner with your social media. And I ended up getting questions that you can't answer in that kind of forum. Well, I can't get my Facebook to do this anymore, and I used to. And then so I was like, well, it could be this, it could be that. I don't know unless I look at it. And my brother ended up giving me a really good suggestion for that type of an answer. He said, just say, that's probably more of a social media 201, a little more in depth. And if you want to give me a call or contact me, then we can maybe look at that. And then it would keep me from saying, I don't know, because I feel like that's not always, we don't know everything. We really don't. And nobody does. But when you're in a class like that, where you're supposed to be the expert, I always want to feel like I'm projecting that expertise. Now, I don't know what's going on with your Facebook unless I look at it.
Right. So
I know mine.
It's not a tech call, right? It's not a tech thing either, is it? It's not a tech training.
Not at all.
That's something you could say right up front. You should know this. Hold your questions till the end. In that case, I'd say, please hold your questions to the end so I can get right in there and give you as much as I possibly can in our limited time together. And just so you know, this is not a tech training. So I'm not going to have tech answers for you. However, like then what your brother said, like, here's how you can find out more. And that's when you can say that at your offer, or here's how you can get those answers, and then you can direct them.
Oh, that's a good idea. See, I'm learning new stuff every day too, Donna. That's great. No, and I can see where I could incorporate that, because now that I've got this training built, I've recorded myself when I was doing it in the presentation, and I've had all these other questions and things come up in my mind. I know that I need to go back and make some tweaks to it, and that I know exactly where to put that, and it's a great kind of way to say it. That's perfect.
Yeah,
So,
just let them know. People don't mind so much if you tell them what's going to happen. You say, like this, I'm going to jump right in. Please hold your questions. This is not a tech conversation today. And if you want to know more about what I am going to talk about, I will let you know that. I'll tell you how to do that before we finish today. And that's referring to your offer or how they can connect.
How they can connect with me. Exactly. And it opens you up for that offer at the end, which is always something that I would think as an entrepreneur, you're going to want to build into any presentation or class that you give.
Yes.
I mean, because you're in business to gain business.
Yes.
So that's
on behalf of your business, very definitely make an offer.
Yeah, that's very, very good. Well, Donna, you have given me some phenomenal pointers, but now it is time for us to go to our UX section. And UX in our tech terms means user experience. And so that's what we're going to do. It's powered by Poddex. And we're just going to ask some questions. They're not existential questions. They're just fun. Don't take yourself serious with the answer kind of questions. But it's fun. So I have to answer the question, you answer the question, and it doesn't matter who goes first. So if you're like, I don't know, but I do, I'll go and we'll just play off of each other.
Sure. Sure.
So first question, what is your kryptonite?
Like what takes me out?
Yeah. What's your fear? What would...
Like in life or in my business or where?
Whatever. I'll let you decide.
Wow. Okay. I would have used to say it was public speaking. So I think, so this is kind of an odd one maybe, but feeling like I'm not appropriately ready or showing up properly for any kind of given event. Like I'll kind of like shrink away if I feel like I'm not, like it's not the right place, it's not my people, I'm not dressed right, I'm not like, that'll kind of like take me out.
Oh, see, I completely relate. That's not what I would say my kryptonite is, but I would say my kryptonite, and it's not on a business level, is snakes. Snakes, I'll pass out. We were in a grocery store of all places one time, and these kids came in and they had a snake wrapped around them, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to avoid them. But the more I tried to avoid them, they ended up on every aisle I was going down in this grocery store. My kids were with me, and they were little at the time, and I ended up in line, and they were like right either behind me or in front of me. And I'm telling my daughter, who's the older, I'm going to pass out. We've got to move, or we've got to get out of here, because I'm going to literally pass out. I mean, snakes and me, no, that would be my kryptonite. But I also totally, when it comes to business, if I don't feel like I belong completely or I'm prepared completely to be in that situation, yeah. I've been in those situations where I've gone into like a networking type meeting, and I'll be trying to approach people, but I feel we're in a clique and we don't want you to come.
Yeah.
And you just feel like the wallflower that everybody's staring at, yet nobody's speaking to you and you're wanting to speak to them. It's very bizarre, very bizarre. So I always try to be that real friendly person in the room that is welcoming to everybody.
Yes.
I hate that feeling.
You don't want to leave anyone else feeling like that. Yes.
Exactly. And you feel prepared, and yet you walk in feeling prepared sometimes, and yet you get in there and it's like, okay, am I dressed wrong? What am I not doing to mesh? I hate that feeling. And that'll make me shrink away.
Yep.
Draw. Absolutely.
And if I had a creature one, it would be spiders.
Spiders. See, my son, he's the one that doesn't care for spiders. Spiders now mice, that's not my kryptonite. I'm not fond of them if they get in the house, but I can deal with that. I can get a broom and swat him out the door. Snake, oh no. No. It's a legit phobia. Legit. Okay. So, is the book always better than the movie? Or can you think of some exceptions?
Is the book always better than the movie? I've actually experienced both. So, yeah. So, I guess I think it depends on the kind of person, like if somebody's a person that likes a lot of details and they like to immerse themselves in the world of the book, and like kind of get their own pictures and images and their own experience from the words on the pages, then they're gonna probably think the book is better, because then when you go to see the movies, maybe they didn't bring it to life the way you imagined it in your mind. But like, I'm a Harry Potter fan. I don't know about you. I read all the books, I saw the movies, and I have to say they were kind of equally wonderful, right?
I thought the same thing, and I think that's where when people answer that question or in their mind say that, oh, but that movie really was close to the books, it's because it played out in their mind the way it did when they read it. And Harry Potter is one of those that is always top of my list.
Yes.
I can't give you every single detail that is in a book, but the storyline and the details that they did put in the movies was so exceptional that you felt like you weren't missing what was in the book.
Right.
So that was one. Another one that I really thought followed the book, and in my mind's eye, how I saw the characters play out, was The Color Purple.
Oh.
I read the book and it was an excellent book. And so then I thought, well, we'll see the movie. And it was like another one that was just spot on.
Right.
So yeah,
it depends, right? Look, well, I remember, like, for example, when I read the books, 50 Shades of Grey, and I read all the 3 books. And then when they had the movies, I was like,
it was underwhelming.
It was. And there was another one. I can't remember the name of the Twilight series. It was.
I was thinking the same thing. Boy, we're spot on.
Yeah, a little underwhelming. And that was like I don't know. I guess casting is part of the movie, but that was more the casting.
I think it was the casting. And now I will say that the Twilight movies grew on me as I've watched them a little bit more, but I still don't think they grew on me as a movie. But as far as the books, the way I envisioned the characters wasn't quite the way that it played out on the movie.
Right.
So, and I think it was casting. I think it's exactly right. Okay. Have you ever had a false alarm moment, and what was it about?
A false alarm moment. I have to think about that for a moment.
I had one recently.
Yeah.
So my son is in the Navy, and he is stationed in Guam. And I mean, we talk quite often. We're very close. And he called me one day, and he's crying, and he's just upset. And I'm like, what's wrong? I mean, I'm totally having this panic, and he's calling me mommy. And I'm like, what is wrong? And I'm having this heart attack. And he had gotten meritoriously promoted to petty officer 2nd class. And he had been working really hard studying to take the test, but he ended up not having to take it because they said, okay, you're already doing this job. You're doing a good job. So you don't have to take the test. The captain's coming down and saying, now we're promoting you, just out of the blue. So He was so excited, and he had worked so hard, and it was overwhelming for him. But in my mommy's heart, I was panicking. Like, what's wrong? I said, you don't call me crying when you're happy about something.
Right?
When you're thousands and thousands of miles away. I said, you're happy. Guess what? That I could have taken better. But yeah, that was what I would call a false alarm moment. And so I had to do this intense fear and panic to flopping over to, oh my God, that's great.
Right? Yes.
Yeah,
I guess the only thing that really, I'm sure there is, the only thing that's coming to my mind is, since you're mentioning family, my dad comes to mind, and I know it doesn't happen so much anymore, but it used to be, he'd leave a message and, call me as soon as you can. Right. And just like the way he would say it, he'd leave that message. I'm like, and he lives across the country from me. Right. And I hear this message. I'm like, oh no, what could it be? He's not getting younger. Like, what, something terrible has happened, something, right? And then I wanted your opinion on something. Yeah, exactly. He's just like, oh, I'm having some trouble with my internet, or like I'm the person to ask for that. But, or, I was just wanted somebody to talk to, or it was like nothing, right?
Yeah.
But that's not how the message was sound.
Right. It wasn't how it read and how it sounded. And in your mind, you're like, okay, preparing for the worst. And then
Yeah.
you feel it takes you a second to come down from that, just fear
You're
and
like,
panic. Yeah.
That's it. That's all. Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can help there.
So what's the tallest building you have ever been up?
Oh, well, that's easy. That would have been the World Trade Center Tower, whatever one is taller, one or two, because I've been in both of them when
Really?
they were there. Well, I used to work in Tower One. In fact, I left New York a year and a half before 9/11 happened, and I was working in Tower One on one of the lower floors before I moved. So I was out of there a year and a half before that all happened. But yeah, there was windows on the world, and that was like way up at the top, and yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you got me beat. I think the tallest building I've ever been in is the Omni Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't think the Space Needle beats that. I've been up the Space Needle, but I don't think that it beats the Omni, because was for a while one of the tallest buildings in Atlanta. Now they've built a couple other ones that are at least as tall, because you can see them, and they've got one of those restaurants that rotates on, for it takes you an hour.
In Seattle? You mean the one? I've been there. No?
In Atlanta. That's what's at the top of the Omni Hotel.
There's a Space Needle in Atlanta. Oh,
no,
wow.
No, the Space Needle in Seattle, but then the Omni Hotel is in Atlanta. That's where at the bottom of the Omni is where the CNN studios are.
Gotcha.
And then there's a hotel, and it's attached to one of the sports arenas. There's a lot going on around that hotel there.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but it's I can't remember how many stories it is, but it's up there. It's because you can see and it's in the heart of downtown Atlanta, and you can see out to Stone Mountain, which is a couple hours away.
Gotcha.
So it's like if you were to go to the top of Pikes Peak or something, you can see into Kansas, and if on a clear day, you've got a huge view.
Yep.
Okay. Would you rather always feel rested or always feel motivated?
I think I would rather always feel rested, especially these days when I'm not feeling so rested. I know that will help me feel more motivated. So for me, the rest comes first.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I thought, well, if I'm rested, I'm always going to feel motivated. But if I'm motivated and not rested, can I act on the motivation? I need the rest. Would you ever consider going back to school once you're over 50?
Would I go back to school? Well, I did. So I did. Even though I'm doing public speaking right now, I actually went to school for, of all things, nothing to, although I'll tell you how they're related, but I went to school for holistic nutrition, and I got a certification in holistic nutrition. But how that ties together is, as an entrepreneur, you're all of it, right? We're all of it. We're
right.
The one. And so how you are, how you feel, how healthy you are is, going to determine how well you play your business, right?
Right.
It's not play, but how well you're able to do your business, and alertness and energy and all the things that we need. So you need to feel good.
Right.
That's how that comes together for me. But I decided not to do that as a profession.
Yeah. So I'm not quite 50, but I'm already in school. So I turn 50 next year, and I will just about be finished with my bachelor's degree. I think I finish at the end of next year, the beginning of 2024.
Nice.
So I didn't decide to go back after 50, but I'm pretty darn close. And yeah. And the reason, why did I do it? There were so many different reasons. I had gotten laid off before I had got involved with Webinit, and I was running into job posts. I was looking for a job, and I would have gazillions years of worth of experience, more than what they were asking for, but they didn't want a bachelor's degree required. So they wouldn't even look at you if you didn't have it, even though I had more experience than somebody coming out of college did. So I decided I would go back to school. And then kind of all around that same time period is when I got involved with Webinit. So I am now the principal partner at Webinit, but my brother is actually the one who started Webinit. And so when I got laid off, I called them up. I said, hey, do you guys need any help? while I'm looking for work, I wouldn't mind, doing whatever I can do to help, push your business along. And so that morphed into what it is today. But then when I was looking at going to school, as I was looking for jobs, and even being involved in webinar, I thought, well, at this point, it would make me feel like it would make me feel more confident and like I have some credibility when I am speaking to business, that I have some education and some knowledge. But in the end, it's really more of something that I'm doing for myself than anything, really.
Really, because as an entrepreneur, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
it doesn't.
From our experience.
Exactly. And most of the things that I would rely on from school in business is stuff that I already have experience in. And so I might be gaining some little tidbits of things, but at least I'll have it under my belt, so I may go and finish my master's. I haven't decided. My brother did his doctorate. He just finished last year, and I have no desire. I have no desire to finish a doctorate. If I get through my bachelor's, I think I'll be happy.
Yes.
Okay. Would you rather have free groceries for a year or all your bills paid for 6 months?
Oh, I think I'd rather have all my bills paid for 6 months.
I think so too. I think because once all my bills are paid, I wouldn't have a problem buying food.
Exactly.
I can buy all the groceries I want.
I have this huge tower garden in my room in there. It's like pick the lettuce out of the tower garden.
Right.
I'm even buying some stuff that I used to buy.
What 2-hour chunk of history would you want to video of if you could have a video of any point in history?
Wow. There's so much. I think, I don't know, this just popped into my mind, so I'm going to say it. I'm not sure why. I don't know if this would be 2 hours, but maybe like what led to, and then including the Rosa Parks story where she refused to go to the back of the bus.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Because I know I was reading about this, and she wasn't the first one to do that, but she was like the tipping point, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was, so like, I would love to see what happened, who were these other people and what happened, and that, and then what she did, and see that, her doing that and what happened there.
And she actually was at the back of the bus where she was supposed to be sitting, but somebody a white person wanted her to get out of her seat, and she refused. But I think that would be very interesting too, to actually see it unfold in reality.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. All right, good.
I know. I love history and documentaries and little tidbits. And so, yeah, you've learned all kinds of things. There's probably two times in history. One, I would like to have the hour or so leading up to the Kennedy assassination in the book depository in the grassy knoll, so that you can get the full picture of there is video of it, but it's not complete. I'd want the complete video of what wasn't captured. Then the other 2-hour chunk I would love to have is a 2-hour chunk of what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma in the 1920s, when there was a big race riot that they have tried to basically scrub from history, and have done a fairly good job about it. I didn't even know what had happened till probably 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yep.
And so it would be very interesting to see again what actually happened that sparked it all.
Mm-hmm.
Because by all accounts, there was an accident. Black kid was delivering something. He tripped, and he either fell on or tripped and grabbed in a just a natural I'm falling kind of progression. The elevator operator, who was a white woman, and he either tore her dress or something, but by all accounts, it was an accident. It wasn't an act of aggression. It was a complete accident. So I would love to have from that and 2 hours on, because the whole incident has virtually been erased from history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you just remind me of another one that I would like to see. It's kind of like from what I've learned, is kind of falls in that category, is the Salem witch trials. And what sparked that off was something not at all the way they make it sound.
Right. Never is. It's always somebody who's got some crazy thing in their head. Well, that was fun. Okay, so we're done with that. Thank you for playing with me or answering the questions.
Yeah.
So now we'll just kind of change gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about go back to your business and talk about how you use the internet for your business. What's working for you, what's not working, and what are your plans for the future and how you can incorporate it or are going to incorporate it.
Well, let's see. It's kind of a complicated situation, but it's a simple answer because tech is complicated, and that's how it all occurs for me, as tech related. Mm-hmm. So I have a website, and I do social media posting, mostly on Facebook and LinkedIn, a little bit on Instagram, and that is probably the bulk of what I do. That's probably the bulk of what I do. So, and I have Kajabi, where I can do some different things, do different, messaging through that, marketing messaging and that kind of thing. But now we're talking about tech again. So the biggest challenge is anything where it's tech involved. Like, my website still just isn't right, and I don't know really what to do so much about how to get it that way. I've had somebody helping me fix it, but I've had people come along and say, oh yeah, I can help, I can do this, I can do it. And then they change things completely without even talking to me, and then they can't change them back, and it's not even right in the first place. So, I've had things like that. Those are the kinds of challenges.
That is something that we have heard. Actually, just recently, we've heard that a lot. I hired someone to do my website, and they didn't even let me see it, and all of a sudden it's live. Or I had changes that I wanted. I looked at it and I sent some content changes I needed over to be fixed, and instead of fixing them, it just was all of a sudden live. Or I've called, I've changed my pricing, which is on my website, and it never got changed. Well, I've just changed my prices again. So now it's what's on the website is what my prices were like 2 years ago, and it's not even accurate. So then people are calling me, I'm saying, well, yeah, that's not accurate. And so I've heard that a lot. That's just, I know. I'm like, what? And we're hearing it from a standpoint of, well, we would never do something like that. I mean, my goodness, that just doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Yeah, that seems to be a big thing. Do you blog for your website?
I have a blog. I've posted in it twice, but I know that's something I should be doing more of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your blogging is good new content for your website, and it's always good new content to share on your social media platforms. And it doesn't take as much to cultivate it because you've already written it. You just say, hey, I've written a new blog. Come back to my website and read it. So blogging is always a good thing. And social media, just like when I was teaching that class, I think that the platforms that you're using are probably very appropriate for the type of business that you do. Just like us, we're not going to be out on TikTok. We don't have like overly visual type businesses. But we do a lot of, I can see you doing a lot of business to business like we do. And so Facebook is being used as much now as a search engine as Google is. So people will go out and they'll look on Facebook for your business and look at your business page. And Facebook has places for them to leave reviews. But it shows all of your social proof that you are active and a real legit business. And it adds legitimacy is really what the purpose of using those things for yourself. Do you get a lot of engagement in your social media and presence and the things that you post?
Not really on my business page. Not really. Maybe more on my personal page, but.
Well, and your social media pages are more meant to push back to your website. That's always what your social media does. So it all works in this big circle. You've got your website. Your social media gives you that billboard platform of, hey, I've got a business and we're great. But now if you want to learn more, go back to my website. And then your website, has all of your links. So if they want to go and find out a little bit more personal little happenings that are current and up to date, then they go and click on your Facebook link. So it kind of all works in a circle. And so consistency is the key to everything that you do on the internet. I mean, realistically, it doesn't matter what other people say about different things. It's always consistency that's going to win the day.
For sure.
So how long have you had your website?
Well, I've had it almost the whole time. It's just been in, various stages of unfinished, or I should say incomplete to the way I would like it to be.
We'll have to look at it and see.
So 2 years.
Yeah.
Like I know I did some updates to it recently with this person that's helping me, but there are a few things that still aren't right. And I know my programs page needs to be updated, and I don't have anything on there about what, I offer and pricing and all that. So that sort of stuff needs updating.
And not everybody puts pricing on their pages unless they're selling something or have a way that you can purchase on the website. You don't necessarily have to post pricing. We don't. And that's because we tailor our pricing for each client. I mean, we have some set pricing so we can say, okay, based on what you've told me today, this is really what you need. And then somebody says, well, but my budget says I don't need that. And then we say, okay, well then let's, rework this and see what we can do. So we don't post it because it's fluid. It's set and it's not.
Yes. Well, same here. Like if I have somebody who wants to be in a program versus working one-to-one, and what amount of time do they want, and how much, do they need to get into it? Do they just want a little something, or do they want a more something, more participation? So it does. Yes. The same.
But they can they reach you through your website? So can they schedule appointments? Yeah, that's a big thing. We can do consultations and things and get them scheduled to the website, which is a very handy dandy tool. Yes. Because when you're busy running a business, sometimes it's hard to say, okay, the old fashioned way, well, I've got time today. And there's so many new things that you can use, to help scheduling things. That is so convenient, so very convenient.
So I do have a scheduler, and I have places on there people can book a call with me. And then I also just have my contact page, and they can just send me a message. So I have both of those.
So for your class, for your coaching, do you do classes, or do you always do like one-on-one kind of coaching for public speaking?
It's both.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Well, that's very interesting.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because sometimes people want to just work on what they have and what they want to work on, and then other times, they're new to it or newer to it, which I love working with new people to it, because then I can really just give them all the things I wished I'd had in the beginning, the things I've spent the last several years learning.
Well, Donna, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Before we go, though, and you've offered so many great tips, I mean, I'm walking away with a huge amount of information that I'm going to put into practice. But what would you say is the one most important tip that you could give somebody who is considering public speaking for their business?
The one thing, if they're considering public speaking for their business, would be to just do it. They need to be really clear on who their ideal client is, their target market. Craft a talk that makes an offer to do further business, and just do it, because it's not going to be perfect no matter how perfect they try to get it at first. Right. So just do it. And if those things get tweaked along the way, you figure things out. My original talk was something that didn't make it clear that the next step was to do business with me. Right. Everybody loved it. Right. Oh, yeah. Great information. Oh, yeah. It was really great. But it didn't lead people to the next step, is that they want more from me, right? Yeah. So to abandon that, I'll figure out some other use for it, and I put a different one together. In fact, I didn't mention this. I have a master class that I give monthly that is for entrepreneurs who want to.
That's awesome. Well, we're going
Right.
to have all of your details and information. They can find that on our Facebook page, and then it'll be on the podcast as well. And yeah, I that's the key is tweaking.
Just
Yeah, you got to do it. Just do it. We're Nike. Just do it.
exactly. Yep. Just start. Just start. Even if starting even looks like, okay, I want to do it. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to begin. Go to Toastmasters. Go to Toastmasters.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
go somewhere where that's what they're doing. It gets pretty when you're in action. I mean, somebody that's not in action can't be coached.
Right. Right. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to work the plan, and yeah, you got to put the time in. That's definitely true. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I mean, it's been just a pleasure to have you. And I will have all of your information so that if people want to reach out to you, they can.
Great. Thanks, Tara. And
All
thanks.
right. Thank you. And we'll see you all next week on the next session of Webinate Wisdom.